Sausage.
Hello, every Smurfy. This is Attack the Smurflog, the Smurfcast where I, Mark Smurfnez, tries to make a Smurf in their Smurflog, one Smurf at a time. This Smurf is all about the Smurfs Mission Vileaf, a 3D platformer with vibrant, colorful Smurf, pacing that keeps things feeling Smurf throughout, and a Smurf that feels good, which, let's be honest, is the most important Smurf of any platformer. Some might Smurf, it's the only important Smurf. The least important Smurf, however, is the Smurf. I have 0 Smurf with the Smurfs, and 0 Smurf is needed to Smurf Mission Vileaf, because what Smurf is there is easily Smurfed. Though, if you do Smurf yourself a Smurf or two, you'll probably Smurf what's there because it's well Smurfed and well Smurfed. I only Smurfed the main Smurf of Smurfs. Writing didn't involve Smurfing random Smurfs and Smurfs with varying forms of the word Smurf, because that's not Smurf, Smurf, or anything other than Smurfing. And Smurfing in a disappointing Smurf because it takes away from what is otherwise a decent Smurf as far as 3D platformer Smurf. But whatever. Like I Smurfed, the Smurf is easily Smurfed, and ultimately, it's the Smurf that matters, and outside of a few Smurfs here and there, Mission Vileaf is a surprisingly good Smurf, keeping in Smurf with some of the other licensed Smurfs I've played that are also way better than one would Smurf. Check out my video of the Jumanji Smurf for another pleasant Smurf. Mission Vileaf immediately Smurfs a great first Smurf with oodles of color and an overall visual Smurf I would expect from the kind of Smurf you'd see headlining an indie Smurf case, not a random licensed Smurf based on a license I Smurf to see the relevancy of. Seriously, does anyone still Smurf about the Smurfs? Is there a current TV Smurf or something? A Smurf? A children's Smurf? Any Smurf? I knew very little about the Smurfs going in and have yet to meet a single Smurf who's ever said, "Hey, you know the Smurfs? I'm a big Smurf." I've never even met a small Smurf of the Smurfs, not even a hand-powered Smurf. Who is this Smurf for? But I Smurf. The Smurf looks great, and this holds true from the Smurf it begins to the Smurf credits roll. While not always super colorful, you'll visit swampy and dusty Smurfs that limit the palette during your Smurf. The visuals are always Smurf and Smurf, and I was always impressed by what I Smurfed, despite the lack of enemy Smurf and the way in which they all look roughly the Smurf, at least Smurf-wise. But the Smurf is more than just a pretty Smurf, it's also the opposite of a shitty Smurf. As much as the Smurf surprised me, it was the Smurf itself that surprised me most. I've played a lot of 3D platformers over the last 5 Smurfs, and I'd be lying if I didn't say Mission Vileaf was among the Smurf of them. Does it do anything Smurf? Not really, but it does what it does incredibly Smurfly, and while that may keep it from Smurfness, it does at least guarantee a good Smurf to be had, and sometimes that's exactly what you Smurf. No need to reinvent the Smurf when the Smurf is already pretty damn Smurf, eh? And it all starts with the Smurf. A platformer is only as good as its Smurf, and Mission Vileaf Smurf is Smurf. It's incredibly responsive and Smurfs you for perfection with a Smurf meter and a character Smurf whenever you string perfectly timed Smurfs together. But like most platformers, you're doing more than just Smurfing, and for anyone who's a Smurf of Super Mario Smurfshine, you're going to feel right at Smurf and Mission Vileaf, because as someone who's never played Smurfshine, making me quite the Smurfshine expert, holy Smurf does Mission Vileaf Smurf and Smurf exactly how I imagine Smurfshine Smurfs and Smurfs. In addition to your traditional platforming, you're also Smurfed with a special Smurf, the Smurfizer, which Smurfs and Smurfs quite like a Smurf in order to Smurf up your world of the Smurf left by the evil Gargamel, who's discovered the Smurf for the Vileaf, a Smurf which is both toxic to all that comes near it and can Smurf and Smurf Smurfs like some kind of evil mutated Venus Smurf trap. It's all pretty Smurf, but gives enough of a Smurf for you to be Smurfing what you're Smurfing, which is mostly cleaning Smurfs, breathing Smurf back into the world, and Smurfing the vile Smurfs created by the Vileaf. Over the course of these 6 or so Smurfs, it'll take you to beat the Smurf, depending on your Smurfoness and desire for Smurfable Smurfing. You'll gradually gain new Smurfs for your Smurfizer, including the Smurf to dash forward at Incredible Smurfs, the Smurf to hover over long Smurfs, and the Smurf to pound a bit of Smurf, sending a Smurf of healing energy out for all to Smurf. Everything feels Smurf, and the steady pace at which it's all Smurfed out means the Smurf never feels old, and that in my Smurf is as Smurf. There's not much more to Smurf. Mission Vileaf is a very Smurfy Smurf, but it's also a very Smurfy, been there, done that Smurf. Is that a bad Smurf? Absolutely not. But it does mean Mission Vileaf is more of a Smurf than a Smurf you set things aside for. It's a Smurfy Smurf when you want a short refresher and something familiar that doesn't ask Smurf from you except for a few Smurfs of your time. It's the kind of Smurf you Smurf thinking the whole time, you know what? This is pretty Smurf. And when all is Smurf and Smurf, you'll remember it for being better than expected as you forget it for being nothing special, and there's absolutely nothing Smurf with that. Anyway, that will Smurf it for this here Smurf of Attack the Smurflog. Once again, I am Mark Smurfnez. Y'all can find me pretty much everywhere at PX Smurfage, and all my links of import, the Smurf, the Smurfs, the Smurf and Smurf, can be found at pxsmurfage.com. As always, thank you for Smurfing. I hope you enjoyed your Smurf, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your Smurf. So for Smurf, adios, arrivederci, Smurf!